What's going on, guys? It's Smudger here. Got a little TEC-9 gameplay for you on slums, which I absolutely love, as I have done for many years. It's a little banger of a gameplay. You'll see what I mean. And I wanted to talk about the TEC-9 and how perfect the gun has been as an introduction, as a DLC gun as it essentially is, and how spot on this gun is, and how I wish every DLC gun could at least follow this kind of pattern and this kind of almost categorization of what makes a DLC gun fantastic. Because the TEC-9, when I made my gold gun guide, I was like, this gun sucks, you've got to use it semi-auto or burst, you know, it's only good for hardcore. And that isn't necessarily true. I played a few games with it now and it's quickly becoming one of the most fun guns in the game in terms of Cold War multiplayer. It really is an interesting gun to use. And I use the word interesting because it's not the easiest gun to use, but it's also not the hardest gun to use. It requires a certain level of skill, but that skill gap doesn't feel like it's so massively big that it's unmanageable, but it definitely kind of discourages some of the lesser skilled players, some of the bad players from using it, which is nice to see. It gives you a sense of accomplishment without it being soul-destroyingly difficult. But of course, in order to do that, you do have to be using the full auto repeater attachment. That's probably a given. But when you have this on, especially with the extended 33 round mags, it slaps. In core, you're killing people in 4 to 5 shots, which is pretty astonishing for an SMG, especially at range as well. This thing at range, in terms of SMG range, is insane. It's so satisfying to pick up 2-3 pieces with it. You get yourself out of situations that you probably never should get out of. You're still going to get outgunned by things like LC-10s and MAC-10s up close, but for the most part, if you have any finesse in your bones, then you're going to be fine with this gun. And that's a breath of fresh air, rather than a gun just being, you know, super OP, super fast fire rate, fast damage, you know, let everyone go get it gold and then nerf it. Alternatively, make a gun just trash and nobody wants to use it again. It's a nice kind of in-between. They've managed to hit that sweet spot. I think that is down to a few different things. The predominant thing, of course, being a skill gap is created with the gun. Most people will either not bother to level it up because you do need to get to like level 46, 47 for that full auto repeater. For most people, that's just not worth it, and I do understand why. It doesn't make sense to spend, you know, a good couple of hours of your free time leveling up a gun if you're not going to use it and you don't enjoy it, especially if you're not that bothered about camos. It's not really worth it. But at the same time, once you do get that full auto repeat unlocked, you're kind of rewarded almost with a very good gun, an entirely solid gun. In addition, this gun gives you something that we've not seen, a semi-auto SMG. If you told me that, you know, a few weeks ago, I probably wouldn't have been overly thrilled, but it was different to use, it was a challenge to use, and just kind of get the feel for it, game in, game out. And then of course you've got the addition of the 3 burst and then the full auto as you go on. So it was nice to see the gun almost evolve into 3 separate entities. It was an entirely different experience when it came to getting it gold. There were, you know, 2 attachments that completely changed the way the gun worked for you, and it was kind of beneficial when it came to getting things like long shots. You could kind of scale back some of that firepower. It was a nice little change. I don't think in the time I perhaps realised just how refreshing that was, because although I'll probably say repeatedly in that gold camo video that I hate the gun and that I never want to play with it again, that's because I've just got off, you know, a couple of hours of complete grind with it, with everyone else trying to play corny and 6v6 going for their long shots. And so I'll tend to say that, revisit the gun, you know, 3 to 4 days and love it again. But this TEC-9 is, yeah, it's something special. The skill gap itself rewards players so much without feeling like it's OP. Because your average player, I'd argue, cannot pick up, you know, a burst attachment TEC-9 and shred with it. A good player could. I don't know if I'd be able to, but you're rewarded for putting in that grind, which is something we haven't really seen within DLC guns, so that's fantastic. I know that there's actually a pretty decent foundation of hardcore players only that kind of never touch core. At that point, you'd probably be better off with a different SMG. It's very viable, don't get me wrong, it's a super good gun, you know, there's nothing wrong with it as such, but there's better options And in a game mode like hardcore, where everything is going to matter in terms of getting that fire rate up, getting those first shots in, because that's all you really have in hardcore, it's really difficult to justify using it unless you are going 4 camos, 4 long shots. It might be fun for a game or two, but you know, you'll find those lobbies where you just cannot get that first shot off quickly because the fire rate is so slow. In core that doesn't matter so much, because by the time you've got that fire rate off, you might, you know, be down to half health, but it hits so hard that you recuperate from that. In hardcore that's not the case. And so if you're a hardcore player, this gun is a nightmare. It's very, very good at long shots, so if you want to get those camos done, it's very easy. But it's not good for run and gun hardcore players, and they are out there. I know hardcore players get a lot of stick for sitting back and, you know, never playing the objective, never finishing games through like completing objectives. They just sit back and pick people off. But there are run and gun hardcore players out there, and it's super fun and rewarding when something does come off. You know, you can pick up 5-6 pieces easily in hardcore, but it's not always viable with this gun. And so whilst I think the balancing is fantastic for core, I think in hardcore it's just a little bit too slow. It's not a bad gun, it's just probably a little bit below average. Definitely usable in the right lobbies, but not super viable in your average standard, you know, SBMM riddled hardcore lobby as it is right now, especially in a game mode like Face Off 6v6, which is super fast paced. You've got to be on your game, and God help you if you're not, if you're trying to use an off meta gun as it is, because whew, you're going to be in trouble. But the TEC-9 is a fantastic example of when a gun works right. It has reinvigorated the game for me personally. I'm loving playing with it. It's very rare that a gun will keep me hooked, like a gun itself, as opposed to a mode or a map or like an objective that I want to try and complete, or even a camo grind. It's very rare that once I've got a gun gold I'll revisit it very often, unless I'm trying to get a gameplay, unless I'm trying to like prove a point for a glitch or for some tips and tricks. It's very rare I'll just pick a gun up and play with it for fun once I've got it gold, especially the DLC guns. They just seem to lack something, and once you've got them gold, I don't know if it's the trauma of trying to get them gold that does it, but the TEC-9 has really been refreshing. It's a fantastic example of what a good DLC gun can do. And that's just my opinion. I know it won't be for everyone, not everyone will like the TEC-9, it won't have done the same, but it's nice. It's a breath of fresh air. It's not something that happens very often. I think all DLC guns should bring something entirely unique to the game where possible. I know it's not going to be, you know, viable for every single drop, but bring something different. Let people have a different challenge, let people enjoy what they use. Take the FAL in Modern Warfare. There's some people there that have been using that since day one in Warzone. They loved it. Before it became meta, they absolutely adored the FAL because they like the semi-auto kind of style of it. And there's some people that will never touch the FAL. They'll only touch the FAL if it's super OP like it was, and they have to be using a fully auto gun. And you need that variation in order to keep the game fresh for everyone, to cater to playstyles, to cater to people's tastes. And the TEC-9 has done it. It's done it pretty well. It's given an entirely new challenge, an entirely different way of looking at the game, and a long range SMG that really does slap. Whilst not being OP at close range, it's a pretty good gun. But if you agree, disagree, have opinions on the TEC-9 I've not covered, do let me know in the comments down below. I am interested to know what you have to say. I know in Warzone it's a decent little gun kind of for ground loot. I haven't seen many people using it outside of ground loot in their loadouts. The small mag size doesn't really lend itself fantastically, maybe to solos. But do let me know your thoughts. Like I said, I know this has been a bit of a different one than usual, but I enjoyed making it, so if you guys want to see more of this style, let me know. If you are new here, you want to find your way back, hit that subscribe button. We've just hit 3.3k, which is kind of wild, so thanks to that. I hope you'll have a good day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.